Hello, everybody.
Hello.
How we
Hello.
doing?
Welcome. Yeah, welcome to True Crime in Real Time. It's just Ashley and Eric tonight.
Yes. Sophie had to work. But
Yeah, every so often one of us works, which is like shocker. We actually work all the time, but
yeah.
yeah, nighttime seemed to work well for us. It's recap night. It's night two. We actually have a lot to go over, and we've seen a little bit. Well, we watched a lot today. Today felt a little dry. What did you think?
Yeah, it was a little quiet, but you had Payne and Mallory on there. You know,
Yeah, what did you
go,
think of Pain?
Payne is very vague, and he just basically, didn't say much. Like the last time, basically said the FBI did this, the FBI did that. He just followed their lead.
Yeah, I mean these are
And
relatively new detectives, right? Like and I guess getting the FBI involved was probably like something for them where they just followed their lead a lot or it was his first time ever doing a PCA as well.
yes, I don't care where you live. A quadruple homicide in a college town. It's gonna blow your mind. I don't care what kind of cop you are, detective, how long you've been doing it. It's not an everyday thing, and it's uncharted waters, I would think, for a lot of cops.
No kidding. Did he come across to you as corrupt or, anything like that? Like what was your take on him?
He came up as like I just thought he was like following the lead of the FBI. He didn't want to make any mistakes. He just was doing what he was told, and he didn't. I got the impression he really didn't know what to do, so he just followed a lead.
Yeah. Yeah, that was what I got too. Is like he's pretty soft spoken. He didn't seem to have much of an agenda. I mean, I really think they just tried to follow the evidence. They didn't have a lot to go on in the beginning, but they just kind of had to process the scene. We learned a lot in the last couple days. A lot of new bombshells.
Oh yeah,
The roommate thing was kind of massive. I think everyone's going to be discussing the new bombshells of Dylan and her memory issues.
yeah, completely different than what there's in the PCA anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And, um, you know, apparently she heard people coming up and down the stairs, but that wasn't in the PCA. Um, we've got the blood smear with, I don't know, how did they know that it was male DNA on the blood was male DNA if they didn't process it?
Yeah, I don't know. I, yeah, I don't know how they do that. Hey Jay, what's up? Uh,
Oh,
um, but yeah, I mean, do they just process it for sex? I mean, does it mean that they can't tell whose it is, but they can just tell it's male or female?
right. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting to me that there would be, I think they said two different blood samples, one male blood sample that wasn't processed. It's not BK and it's not Ethan. So, I mean, not sure what that's all about. Again, I mean, I think it just really goes to show that there's a lot of evidence or items in this Idaho 4 case that we have no idea about because again, there's been a gag order, you know, so there's a lot
Yes.
that we don't know and a lot of missing pieces that probably will make everything fit together when we do eventually learn all the details.
Yep. And that the running up and down the stairs thing is pretty odd. Like,
Yeah, what do you make of that?
I don't know. Basically sounds like she heard running up and down the stairs and like fighting. I guess it sounds like and she says it sounded like it was Kaylee, I believe. And
I mean,
but
is
then
that something that they can rule out though? Like, could that not be the case? Like, could that not have been like what happened and then she ended up in the bed? I mean, I guess this is all
well,
speculation, but I'm just curious.
well, it seems like Ann Taylor thinks she was killed in the bed, and that's false. That whole running up and down, which
Right.
is totally new, but she thinks that's fabricated. And what that was an isn't it? That was in an interview, not the PCA questioning. I guess. Let me see
Yeah,
what's
and
the.
she also mentioned that her memory wasn't great and that she was like inebriated, right? Which
Yeah,
of
let me
course
pull
we
that
all
up.
kind of knew that. Yeah,
I'm
let's
gonna
take a
pull.
look.
I'll pull it up.
We've got some notes here, some takeaways that we were lucky enough to grab off of X.
Let's say okay. That's the second page. I gotta get the first page.
So we can just go point by point and kind of discuss it as we check them out.
Okay, so let me see. Make this big enough so I can read it. Okay. All right. Notable points: two unidentified male blood DNAs on the handrail and a glove. Two unidentified male blood DNAs.
Yeah. Is there any way, like, I'm so not a DNA expert and I don't know much about it, obviously. I don't think any of us are. But is there any way to know, like, how old the blood is? And obviously you would know by looking, but, like, how is there any way that they could, figure out, okay, this came from 2 days ago at a party where, like, some guys broke a glass versus, like, the fresh blood that was there that evening?
Yeah, I would think that like if it was wet, you know what I mean? Like it would.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if
But
it's wet, you
yeah,
would
yeah, I'm
just.
saying, but yeah, I don't know how they would know how long it was there.
Now, any speculation about why they didn't process that? Or, like, I know it wasn't linked to Ethan and it wasn't linked to BK. So, what do you think? Like, do you think that there could be a second person? Like, what does that link to for you in your mind?
Yeah, I think it could possibly be another uh, assailant or suspect because I mean that basically that handrail is where they're saying that people were running up and down, right? That's that stairwell. That's my understanding.
Yeah, we've always kind of thought that there was an option for a second person. I mean, the timeline alone, they said they said 9 minutes, but then throughout um, this hearing process, it sounds more like it's 7 minutes. So, I mean, that's even a shorter period of time. So, I know WSU mom Kim has always said there's multiple people. There's been a lot of speculation in the true crime community that there's more than one person. A lot of people wanted to link um, Kopaka, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, definitely.
yeah, because that
I
was
think it's
brought
hard to
up.
do by yourself. Like I think it's just hard to do. Go in a house with six people in it by yourself, and like I just don't think you'd attempt it one person.
With just a knife. And didn't BK supposedly say, according to Brian Enton, was anybody else arrested?
Yes, he did. Yep.
Okay.
All right. All right. The next point we got after her initial interview, DM stated she had too much to drink and had memory issues. Was not sure some stuff happened the way she described it or happened at all. I guess in the PCA. Uh,
That's
she said she
disturbing.
heard crying. She heard crying in the bathroom, and that she saw a victim run up and down the stairs. Okay.
That
So
she saw a victim run up and down the stairs?
yep, that's what it says. She saw a victim run up and down the stairs. Like which victim? Like, I mean,
Right. I mean, one would assume it would be Maddie or Kaylee, right?
yep, yep, because that's what it upstairs is. Yeah.
Hmm.
And
I
this
mean,
next one, okay.
so back to that, in my opinion, like what would make them exclude that from the PCA? Like would they exclude it because it doesn't match the evidence? Would they exclude it because she said that she doesn't know for sure if it happened? Like, I mean, really, we're just speculating here, but these are things that came out in the last couple days in trial and managed to get them in her discussions. I don't think they were necessarily meant to come in. It wasn't necessary, but she kind of slipped it in. And obviously, these are like the bombshells and like the things that we're sort of focusing in on because it's brand new information. The gag order never gave us this information. We've only gotten the PCA. But in my opinion, it might have gotten left out because maybe DM changed her story multiple times and she decided that that was like a piece she just couldn't um, she
Or
couldn't say what happened or didn't happen. You know, she was like back and forth on it maybe, but she definitely said it.
yeah, it's strange that it's two different. Like, I don't know, could it be because she said she was drunk or had memory issues that they didn't take it serious? But looks like they taken it
Right.
serious. Yeah.
Yeah. And took it seriously enough to bring it up. So there you go.
Yep. This I find really strange. DM didn't recognize BK when she was shown his picture. Like, we never heard that in 2 years that she was shown a picture.
And at what point did they show her his picture? Like, was it in the beginning or was it when he was like nabbed,
After,
right?
yeah, that's another thing. And
I
then,
mean, but why would she recognize him, right? He was supposed to be all clad in black with a mask and just the bushy eyebrows. I mean,
yeah,
to me, it's almost like not a red flag, the fact that she didn't recognize him, because she can't, like, if she would have been like, oh yeah, that's the guy, like, you would really wonder, because it was pretty dark. She was inebriated. I'm kind of glad she didn't make a positive identification, because that they would have ripped that apart.
and, and did I get his picture because he has bushy eyebrows? Like, did I find like someone who she described? Because like the next part says, she described him as like 5'10", and I was saying 5'8".
I mean, that's a huge discrepancy. He looks taller than 6 foot. He looks a little bit taller than that. He looks 6'1" to me, or 6'2".
Yeah, he's a pretty big guy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
I mean, 5'8". That's really short.
yeah, I think Dylan's like 5'10".
Right. So she would have a pretty good idea of what a 5'8", 5'9" person. She'd be like, "Oh, my height," right?
Yeah,
Like if
she said. I thought, yeah, she said something like that. Yeah. DM said the perp was taller than her, and she's 5. Oh, she's 5'8", and he was taller than her. That's what she said. Okay. So more vague than 5'10" or taller. Brian's like
okay.
6'1", you say? You think 6'1", 6'2"?
Yeah, I think he's like 6 foot at least, right?
Yeah,
So.
yeah, yeah. He looks like a pretty big guy.
Okay.
And then we got what else now? Oh, Kaylee's room was open, so Murphy was free to go out. The dog didn't have any drop of blood on him, no blood on his or paw tracks. He barked for a while after the alleged SV1 had left and abruptly stopped suddenly. Or was
Hmm.
that vehicle one?
Suspect
Suspect
vehicle
vehicle
one.
one
Yeah.
had stopped abruptly
Hey,
after it left.
Ducky.
What was going on with the dog for 8 hours? Did he go to Maddie Mogan's room, which was also open? Wouldn't he go looking for KG and follow the smell? What about during the crime itself? A few questions there.
Okay, so a couple things with that. Like, I have a really like hyperactive dog. She's a Labrador, very similar to a golden doodle. If the door was open and I was in like those type of dogs, Labrador retrievers, like retrievers in general, they're all about their nose, right? So everything is by the nose. They like live and breathe and die by their nose. They follow everything. They put everything in their mouth. I find it so strange that the door would be open, there would be blood, and a light colored dog and a retriever type dog wouldn't follow their nose and like put their nose and their paws everywhere. My dog was about the same age as Murphy when this crime happened. And so Murphy was like kind of a puppy, right? A puppy lab or a puppy retriever or retriever cross would be nose to the ground, would be into everything. It would be practically impossible to keep your dog away from blood. And the blood was everywhere. So I just find that so hard to believe. I thought in the PCA they said the dog was in a separate room with the door closed.
I thought that too. Yeah, when they arrived, that's what I thought was said too. Well, that's why I guess she's bringing this up because it's a completely different story than what we were told in the beginning.
So is Anne's purpose of telling us this is that like the PCA is just not matching?
Yes, and she thinks it's fabricated, and that's where her corruption thing comes in, like
Okay.
her Frank's theory. You know what I mean? That they messed with evidence.
Well, I'm just gonna say as a dog owner that that doesn't really jive for me because yeah, like I mean I have a retriever and retrievers would be into everything, especially that they're very like focused on their owners. It just would be so impossible to keep your dog away from trying to like be involved in anything. Ducky says no way a dog stays in a room with the door open for 5 minutes, let alone plus no blood on the paws. Yeah, it doesn't add up. There's something weird with the dog thing. Hopefully it comes
So
out in court, but I don't see the door being open and the dog
so
being
yes,
able to
so
see.
that's our theory is the door has to be shut, right?
Yeah,
If
has to,
okay,
has to.
yeah. So alrighty, then it says defense stated again that there's no physical digital evidence linking him to the victims. So much for, but had said this Apple, Google, whatever warrant returned. Now was that the like the Alexa thing?
Sorry, I'm gonna have to read that myself. I didn't quite catch that. So it says defense stated there's no physical digital evidence linking him to the victims. So much for they had said that the Apple, Google, whatever warrants returned. Okay. To me, I think we got to put a pin in that because we don't have all the evidence. That was just this is let's just preface that these little points are something we took off of X and this is from the defense's point of view. We haven't heard the state side of things. The fact that they're saying there's no digital evidence, if you hear the state say things, they're going to say it completely differently. So I think that's something we don't want to put misinformation out there. We don't know about the digital evidence at this stage of the game, and they can't release it right now, anyways. So I think that's kind of an overreach
And this
to
is all
say.
new evidence too. It's code that we just found out
Yeah,
all
it's
this
like
stuff.
little and they're not it's not really necessarily even evidence, it's just stuff that like Anne's put out there or the defense has put out there as like issues that they're having with the case at the moment.
Yes.
Now the next point is kind of interesting in my opinion. Balance didn't track BK's phone after 2:42 a.m.
So that means the phone was off at 2:42.
Mm-hmm. So that's the thing that changes the timeline of the crime, supposed crime,
Yes.
from 9 minutes to 7 minutes, right? Yeah, Cat K is giving us a thumbs up on that.
Was 2:42 the time when she called Jack?
No, but they were calling Jack up until that point. Okay, I'll just read the second point because it ties into to this. So Payne claimed in the PCA his phone stopped responding at 2:47 a.m., but it was 7 minutes later. Did Payne do that to claim the PCA that it was a white sedan? So basically, what they're trying to say is Payne making the digital evidence match the white sedan evidence? Are they tweaking the times to make the time match the visuals we have of the white sedan turning in and turning out? Like, are they kind of fudging by a couple minutes so it can match up? What do you guys think in the chat? It was not overly hard to follow, but you kind of had to follow their thought processes.
Yeah. No, I get it. I just think information like this is like trial information. Like,
Right. We're not going to know that, and majority of this until we have both sides and we see the evidence. Like the evidence isn't out yet. These are just things that they've kind of thrown out there into the ether. Um, Now, they said that they used the wrong GPS in the Google warrant. That's kind of, um, I'm not sure like what GPS they're talking about necessarily, but again, this is digital evidence. This is stuff that we're going to potentially have experts come out and talk about. I like to hear what the experts have to say. Um,
Yeah, from like the
do you
Karen
go
Reed
on?
case, the experts know a lot. They just, they it's more important what they say because they know a lot about the cell phones and the pings and timing and
Yeah, the experts are really going to be, it's going to be the battle of the experts, because especially when you get into like the Apple experts, the GPS experts, the people who really like understand exactly what it is that they're looking at, that's when it really becomes, especially when you're talking about like matters of minutes, like minutes here and there, and they're going to have to match up the GPS, the coordinates, the video of um, the white Elantra, and then also the delivery, I guess, like the DoorDash delivery, because the DoorDash delivery was at what time? Like they didn't
four
even mention
o'clock, 4 in the
4 o'clock
morning.
in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah,
So the DoorDash
yeah.
delivery was in there too. So there's a lot of times that we do know about and that we'll have to all match up together to create one big picture of what happened.
And even like the ride share. Like,
Yeah.
I suppose we got home at 1:56.
And in the PCA, Dylan said that everybody was home and in bed by 2 a.m.,
Yep.
right?
Yes, yes, that's what she said.
Which is also kind of strange to me because, I mean, and I guess it has to match up because we did see them on the Grub Truck videos and stuff. But like when I used to get home from the clubs, like it would take me a while to like get into bed. Like, especially if I'm with friends, it's like, you're kind of milling around, you're making phone calls. Um, how can I know if all my roommates are in bed, especially if I'm drunk? All this hinges on Dylan's telling of the story, and that's a lot of pressure on her. Like I worry, and I'm a little concerned about the surviving roommates because especially if they told the police like I can't be sure, I was drunk, I don't know, I don't remember, and now they're like hinging all these stories on specifically like what Dylan says. I'm almost like worried about her, the fact that like if her story doesn't match up. I mean, she kind of told them like, "Don't listen to me. I was drunk."
And how come there's no Bethany talk? Like, you'll hear Dylan, you don't hear nothing about Bethany.
Well, and supposedly Bethany's the one with the evidence that can exonerate.
So
She
she's
saw
gagged.
something.
I
She
guess
saw
her
something.
she's gagged, completely gagged, right?
Yeah, supposedly.
Because I don't know why wasn't Dylan gagged. It's just weird that one can talk and one can't.
Well, one probably had a story that worked better for them. I mean, at the end of the day, they are trying to piece together a picture of a story. So if Bethany, let's say, had a totally different recollection and it was like so crazy and sideways, and maybe she was truly dreaming or she was more intoxicated, and Dylan maybe seemed more together, more with it. Her story seemed a little bit more credible. She had an eyewitness account. Maybe they just decided, hey, let's go with the one that seems a little bit more put together.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
a
yeah,
possibility.
yeah. Well, her lawyer, Bethany's lawyer, said, "Don't say a word."
That's the smart thing to do. If I'll
Exactly.
tell you what, if I was the surviving roommate, I mean, just even looking at some of the stuff that I'm seeing online today, like I saw Harsh Reality did a video and he like is already kind of flaming Dylan and saying like, oh, it doesn't make sense. Your story doesn't make sense. Did she not say my story doesn't make sense? Like, didn't she literally say like I was wasted and I
Yeah,
don't know if I was dreaming or not? So it's like, it's a lot of pressure to put on these girls to like remember stuff when they're literally saying like I have no idea if this is true or not. It's
and
just a
it's but
lot.
8 hours. But you know what it is? It's 8 hours later too, right? I mean,
Right. Let's see. Kat K says, "What do you all think of DM saying one of the victims was roaming up and down the stairs?" Yeah, we did talk about that in the beginning, Kat. I think you just weren't here, but we did say like for me, like I think it's possible. I mean, if they heard something, if they heard somebody in the house, or if they heard like struggle with Xana, or you know I don't know. I mean, I'd come downstairs maybe. Like, why not? I mean, it was a
And,
relatively small place.
and I think that makes it more like that there was another person there. So,
Yeah. And Dylan said that she saw somebody coming up and down the stairs. So like that's that was a bombshell, in my opinion.
remember when they said like she came out of the room 3 times? She said, "Shut the fuck up," and she came out one time and she heard the dog, Kaylee playing with the dog. Like that's supposedly all this is at the same
Yeah.
time, right? Like that's completely different stuff too.
Yeah, that's right. And the dog was barking for 25 minutes. See, that more adds up with my dog would bark more so for 25 minutes if she was locked in a different room and kind of knew something was going on versus her being out and about and being able to sniff and mess around. Um, Not to do a side quest from roaming up and down the stairs, but I mean, I think Dylan's statement should be complete. If they're going to use her statement, they need to use the whole entire statement as she said it versus bits and pieces of her statement and
That,
leaving out others, because she's either credible or she isn't. So either she saw this, and this, or she saw, or nothing she's saying is credible and we're not going to use it. But to use some and not use others, it's a huge red flag for me. And you guys know me. I think that, um, I think the police did an okay job. I don't think that there's like major corruption in this, but I'm having like major red flags with the PCA if Dylan really said all these various stories and they're only using like a quarter of what she's saying.
remember, I'm here to help you. You remember that too? That was said.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's all from Dylan.
Yeah.
She came out of
And
her room 3 times.
what I want to know is what is, I mean, we won't know this till trial. And again, this is like the frustrating thing about discussing Idaho, is because there's so much that we kind of know about, but we don't know about at the same time. They were also texting at the same time, her and Bethany, right?
According to uh, the grand jury, yeah.
So according to the grand jury's testimony, the roommates were texting during the time of the crime, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much secrecy, but like you'd think that you would know the real answers by looking at the text, because the text would reveal what they saw.
Yeah, but that's sealed, so.
Hmm.
But then all that stuff about her being drunk and no memory is doesn't make sense either. Because if you're texting,
Yeah.
you got to be coherent to text. I mean,
Well, and a good reminder too, like, I mean, these girls were, in a really traumatic crime scene. And like, I don't like her, but Jennifer Coffindoffer did remind us that these girls have been cleared. They're not suspects in any way. Um, and they were, investigated and cleared and stuff like that too, and questioned at length. And I think that's important to remember. And also, like, I think that they probably did the best. I mean, Dylan probably did the best she could. And the more she talked, the more she probably tried to add things. And, when you're trying to figure something out in
yeah.
your own mind, and it would have been really traumatic. So I almost
They're
wish she
little
would have
girls
said
too.
nothing.
They're kids. They're little girls. They're 20, 21. They're kids. They're still, like
Yeah, I mean, she would have been like just in a really bad mental state, I would think, when she was giving all this information. So, um, all right. So to the FBI database, like this is kind of the whole reason why we had this suppression hearing, is because BK's lawyer and Taylor basically wants the IGG to get thrown out, right? And the whole idea is that the FBI went into a database and they used it even though it shouldn't have been used. And the argument against that is that number one, it's either his DNA or it isn't, right? He's kind of using both arguments, like, oh, there's like, don't use my DNA, but also saying it's not necessarily his DNA. I heard an interesting thing that in the terms of services, it does say if your DNA is in a criminal investigation, it can be used, like in the terms of services in that particular database. So that could kind of derail that whole argument for them.
And also, they don't need a warrant. If they have a knife sheath at a crime scene of a quadruple homicide, everything there is evidence. There's no warrant. Whatever they collect is theirs, and they can do whatever they pretty much want to figure out, you know, who did it, or so, you don't need permission when you find something at a crime scene.
Yeah. Um, Something I took away from today, and this is kind of along the lines of that, like with everything that you find at a crime scene is evidence, and they don't need a warrant. When looking for the knife in the Amazon purchases and like asking for the Amazon background, I know that came up today. That was a huge thing today that they were talking about. Like that was a big something they also want suppressed is his Amazon and Google history. Um, so a misunderstanding apparently is they're not looking for BK's purchases from Amazon. They're looking for anybody that purchased the K bar from Amazon. And if he's in that group of people who purchased a K bar, then they'd be able to pull that out of that information. They're not looking for his specific purchases. So that was an explanation that kind of helped me understand.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. Now I understand.
Yeah, because they don't they don't necessarily want to see like, okay, what has he purchased in the past 4 months? Because but then that leads me to think, okay, if he is a criminology student and he is really good with forensic evidence, would he not just use like a fake account and just like purchase it and put it to like a PO box or something? Like, wouldn't that be just the first thing you'd think of? Like, I would never order it to my own name.
Buy it cash. Go to the store and buy it.
I know. Why would you buy it on Amazon? Like, that's literally like the craziest choice.
That's what they do. A lot of this stuff that they say he did, a student of the game wouldn't do a lot of this stuff. He wouldn't take his car. There's a lot of stuff that I don't think if somebody would have major like him, if he was some planned out killer, like you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think he might
That
have been
he
a hired hand.
Well, I mean, it's just like the most basic things. Like we just follow true crime, and I literally wouldn't be googling stuff. I wouldn't be if I was gonna like commit a crime. I wouldn't be ordering all my outfits on Amazon that I was planning to wear and like using ordering my K bar on Amazon. Like you would just go to like some kind of secondhand store, like do something so untraceable.
You can't be a genius and an idiot like if you're doing it like that.
Right. Get to Ducking Point says, good way around getting his father or other family member purchasing it for him. Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to get a knife. A knife isn't necessarily a difficult thing to purchase. So, I mean, getting it on Amazon would be about the dumbest thing you could do.
Yeah, exactly.
They were also, if I remember, and this didn't come up today, but if I do remember that they originally got a Walmart receipt and there was something about like a Dickies outfit that would match wearing like the black clothing. But that's never really been major for me because I feel like any black clothing would work, like any sweatsuit or any black clothing.
Yeah, anything dark. Yeah. Mm. Like he had a lot of dark clothes. They said when they went to his house in Pennsylvania, they took a bunch of black sweatshirts and stuff. But I got a bunch of black sweatshirts too. Like if you came to my house, you could get about three. navy blue sweatshirts, four black sweatshirts, two regular blue sweatshirts. Like,
Right. Okay, we have one point here. At some point, the phone moving in another direction other than what Payne claimed in the PCA. They stopped tracking the car when it was pointing in a different direction. I mean, again, that's really for the experts. The tracking of the vehicle, I think there's been so much made of this online, and we can't know until like the digital data gets released. Um, Anne is saying this from what she knows and what she's seen, and then obviously the prosecution is going by what they've seen and what they've gone through, and we've literally seen none of this, none of this material. So it's really difficult to like make a good like estimation of this without like actually seeing it. I know there's going to be a lot of speculation online and people saying that they know things they don't know, but like we don't know the digital evidence. That's something like I learned from following lots of cases is like we just don't know what we don't know. You don't know it until it's released. This is all just hearsay by Anne at the moment.
I don't like why is she like this is trial stuff. Like why is I don't see why this is in a pretrial hearing. All this stuff that we just went over, like this don't
Well,
belong in this hearing.
I agree. I agree with you. I think it is for the benefit of the public. Like I really think that they're just trying to get stuff out there for the public so that the public perception it gets a little bit more swayed in his direction. Um, let's see, get to ducking point. She goes, I meant Allie have um, court for family members financial purchase history. Sorry, not clear. Oh yeah, for sure. Um, my New York closet's full of black. No kidding. New York people are always wearing black. Black is the new black. Um, yeah, I'm kind of surprised a lot of this was allowed in, considering the fact that they knew it was going to be televised and considering the fact that they've like literally changed courts so that he can get a fair trial and like the gag orders in place again for a fair trial. And then now we're getting little bits and pieces and little snapshots of like things that Dylan said and things that the PCA has essentially potentially left out or gotten wrong. I mean, we won't know until this evidence comes to court. And then once it's explained to us by actual forensic scientists who understand what they're looking at, until then, it's going to be like a bunch of online sleuths saying that they understand it when it's like literally not out there to understand. We don't have the digital evidence to look at.
You know what the judge said today too? He said any DNA has to be full disclosed, and they got to do a tutorial to the jury, either like defense and prosecution. So if they're going to bring any talk about DNA, they have
Mm-hmm.
to totally explain every aspect that they're discussing, the IgG, every aspect, the STR, to the jury, and let them know exactly what it is and what it,
Good.
teach them, both sides.
Good. I have a lot of faith in this judge. I really like that this judge is so thorough and he seems like he's really hard on the defense. And then when the prosecution talks, he's really hard on them too. And it seems very fair and balanced to me.
He feels like he's teaching them how to do this. I get that impression.
He, you know what? I watched a little bit of Drunk Turkey and he said that his, like, he's very um, pro prosecution, right? He always has been. Kohberger's guilty. I'm on the fence. I want to be totally clear. Like I'm on the fence. You're guilty. You're innocent until proven guilty, and especially in this case where we have so many holes and so many things that we don't know. But I will say this: Drunk Turkey, who is pro prosecution, said that the prosecution did such a crappy job. He wouldn't be surprised if they did get their hearing, the the hearing that she's looking
The
forward
Frank's
to.
hearing, the Frank's
The
hearing.
Frank's hearing.
Well,
Yeah. He
the
thinks that they're
judge,
going to get.
well, the judge teased her a little bit today. He said, what is in the next 3 weeks? When are you free? Just in case I grant that Frank's hearing, like he said to Ann Taylor, which I found like weird, like but like kind of like a tease, but like he's thinking about it. Like
Well, I should be thinking about it. I mean, this is life and death for BK, and like they want to give him. Personally, I would prefer he gets more of the rulings in his favor than not in his favor, because you want to unturn every single possible option for him before he's found guilty of like this heinous of a crime. Because if like, let's hear it all, let's put it all out there, let's give him all the options to have things thrown out if they were illegally obtained, you know and if they have enough to convict somebody of a crime, one piece of evidence shouldn't be the only thing linking him to a quadruple homicide.
I got a question. The judge sees all the evidence, right?
Yep.
So does he see it like beforehand? Like like say there's a smoking gun. Does he know that already?
I think he has access to it, but I don't think he's like combing through it. I think he would have access to almost everything. But you got to think like it's probably terabytes and digital. And, if there was a smoking gun, like a actual camera footage or something like that, then he would probably be aware of it. Yeah.
So he has to
Because he
go
would.
home and do homework every day, basically, right?
I think the reason why he would know a little bit more is because he would be listening for leaks. Like he would be listening to make sure that they're not letting out pertinent information that could jeopardize the whole trial, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to understand. Like, I was just wondering, like, how much
Yeah.
he knows, or if he has to go home and like watch enough, like get ahead of it, so he could, like, because it's a lot of
hmm
information, and he's a new judge. You know what I mean? Like, he came in later, so he's probably got a lot of shit to watch.
He did. He looked like he wanted to shoot himself in the face when he was listening to both of the arguments on either side. Especially, I think the prosecution really frustrated him today. He was really trying to like walk her through it.
That's why I feel like he's like a teacher. Like, oh, come on, you can't do this. Like, all right, you can't do this. I understand, but you can't.
Ducky says that's what clerks are for. Yeah, the clerks. I think the clerks are probably helping quite a bit too. But I mean, again, they're on live television. If they say something and if they leak out something, what can you do? You can't unring a bell.
All right.
Like, I don't think that Anne was supposed to leak out more things that Dylan said. I really seriously doubt that. I don't think she was supposed to say that thing about um, the blood, the untested blood on the banisters, but she put that out there. I mean,
That's what I
all
mean.
these
She's like,
things are she's throwing it out there, and you can't unring it. Once it's said, it's said.
she's showing her hand, and she shouldn't be right now.
Yeah, and something that I heard one of the pundits say on court TV is that the reason they might get the Franks hearing is because um, it's almost like Anne is trying to like tease out what it is that the prosecution is going to be using, and it might turn out poorly in her favor if she gets that hearing. But
Oh, you remember that video we watched today? Right at the end of it, the judge said something to that one of the prosecutors said about the FBI having information. I can't remember what it was. It was like it would be a problem, and the prosecution's like, "Yeah, major problem. Like if they would have something like if they would have messed with evidence or something." And the judge
mm,
said it like kind of as like a like just to say it, kind of being a dick, like. But and then the
right
prosecutor said, "Yeah, that would be a problem." And then that was the end of the video.
now, like some of the wording that Anne used, like where she said like where the bodies were found and stuff like that, like she kind of made it sound like the bodies were like placed there, like she kind of made it sound like this is all sort of a cover up, or it's a little bit more, there's a little more intrigue than we're made to believe. Like when you're looking online at what people are saying, people are really starting to wonder if there's some type of cover up going on, you know? What do you think about that?
That's why we got to hear. I want to hear the Hunter Johnsons, the guys who called the cop, the 911 call. They seen about how they were, and I think they could tell us how when we get a better idea. Than, they were there before the cops, so like
Mhm.
they could see how they were placed. Like if we was in the doorway, like they say, was it in the hallway? Does we get a bunch of it was blocking the door in Xana's room. They said like there was a, they couldn't open the door. They had to get Hunter Johnson to come in because he's strong. Like I want to hear what he has to say, or the first people who were in the house what they have to say, because the cops didn't come
Right,
till later.
right, right. Yeah. I
And
mean,
I still
it
think
was
some.
it's a complicated scene. It's a complicated scene. You got four dead people and two alive people. You got a dog. You got, like people tracking in and out of that place before the police got there. I mean, then you've got the police that get there. And they're not using proper PPE. Um, I mean, it's a very complicated scene. It's not a cut and dry situation. Not like a lot of the cases we follow where it's like, a pretty obvious like perpetrator and like somebody calls 911 right away. There was hours that went by without, you know, the 911 being called. There's that aspect too, right? And that's obviously
Yeah.
going to loom above the heads of the the roommates, especially now with the newer information with like the girls running up and down the stairs, and then more people are going to be wondering why they didn't call 911 right away. I mean, it's a very complicated scene.
And trigger warning: Kaylee was mutilated, 56 stab wounds. Like
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like
you know,
Steve G's aware of that too, and he said like their wounds don't match. That was like a big thing for him right in the beginning. Remember?
yeah, yeah, definitely, yeah. Like was she fighting back? You know what I mean? Was she the target?
Jackie says, I like to know if any of the responding friends were examined. I think we will find that out. I think we'll find out who was on scene. I think we'll find out what their statements were. I think they'll be called as witnesses right away to say like what they observed. I think it's gonna be
400,
pretty.
right? 400 witnesses.
Well, we heard that in the beginning or a couple like a year ago or so. 56 stab wounds equals oh yeah, manic. Yeah. And the friends' phones. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Get to talking point. So much rage. Yeah. I mean, it really seems like a personal thing when there's 56 stab wounds. Think about that. And when you think about the time of the crime, like 9 minutes, how long would Kaylee have taken? That seems like overkill to me.
That actually would that take a minute at least, and there
Yeah.
would be blood everywhere. You have to have blood everywhere.
Well, and Xana fought back. Xana like almost lost her fingers fighting back.
Yep.
This is a complicated crime scene, and there's no way that the roommates didn't hear things. I mean, this not calling 911 again, like I'm realized that the roommates are cleared and that they're, you know, victims as well in one respect, but at the same time, like there's got to be so many questions for them just with like what they heard, what they texted, the time frame of the 911 call, like not going to check to see if they're okay after seeing and hearing all that.
Even like what was going on previously, like why would this happen? Like what was going on?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And dog barking for 25 minutes, that would wake anybody up, even if you're drunk. I mean, I'm thinking about, okay, a golden doodle would be about the same as my dog. My dog barking for 2 minutes would be like annoying as hell. And I'd be like, okay. But 25 minutes straight and then you don't wake up? Like, come on.
Like I just don't find Brian. What was Brian? If it was Brian, what was his motive? Like that's what. Like what happened previously in the weeks before that he would pick these people?
Well, I
I know
mean,
what I
I
think.
think the angle that they're trying to do is like, some kind of deranged human being type argument.
Yeah,
Thrill kill, stalker. Um, I want to know about the Instagram. Again, Daniel from Drunk Turkey, take it with a grain of salt, but he said that his Instagram used the email from DeSales University. So it can be linked to BK, and apparently he was following the two of the victims. But again, take that with a grain of salt.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, I gotta tie the parents into it too. Just that's
Yeah,
too suspect.
you got parents with drug backgrounds, except I don't know what the big issue with Steve G is. Maybe Kat K can fill us in quickly in the chat. But like everybody seems to all of a sudden hate the G's. Like they really can't stand them. They were like flaming them online, especially with the GoFundMe to like recently. I think they got $75,000 to go to the trial. I
You
don't think
know,
the G's were able to come to this hearing though, but they might have been in Boise for it.
you know what bothers me about him?
What?
He has a child that he pays no mind to,
Yeah, yeah, I heard
and
that.
that's kind of bothering. Like, how do you do that? It's your child, you know what I mean? And she like had issues and stuff. Like, I don't know, I couldn't do that. And then you take care of five other kids. It's like that's karma is bad. I mean, that's just how do you live with yourself? But who knows?
Ducky says, yet the DA publicly said that BK was not stalking the victims prior. Yeah, I mean, now, do you consider following someone on Instagram to be stalking them? What's the threshold for stalking?
Boots on the ground following.
Well, I mean, cyber stalking is a thing. I mean, we've all been cyber stalked. I think it's by some degree. Kat K says, yes, it seems like people think they're out speaking to the public too much, but they have been fairly quiet as of late. Yeah, I noticed that too. He did talk to News Nation. There was a clip yesterday where he sounded like he wasn't overly concerned if the DNA got thrown out, like as if he was aware that there was um, other evidence that could be used in the place of the DNA. And two things about that. Number one, it would be problematic if he was aware of anything above and beyond what the public is, because I don't think that he has a temperament to know any information and keep that to himself. And like BK has the right to a fair trial, and he's already kind of tried to taint the jury to some degree from what we've heard with the grand jury members, like trying to like hook up with them or talk to them or understand like what they heard.
Well,
Um,
He had Shannon Gray. He had the private investigator.
yeah, he had a private investigator as well, so he might have gotten similar information, maybe wanted to like match it up to what the police know. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know how you'd be if you had a kid that I feel like I'd be like that. I feel like I'd be totally insane if my kid got murdered and in cold blood
Oh,
and 56 stab wounds. Like, I mean, I'd definitely be more like him than I would be like um, somebody detached. I think
oh.
I would be.
I would have broke into that frat house and tied everybody up till I got an answer.
Ducky and her OnlyFans account. Yeah, yeah. Cyber stalking is for sure a real thing. You got to watch out for that. Some wackos out there. But I mean,
Oh, you know,
go ahead.
I'll go on. I find interesting. One of the prosecutors said that the DNA is not even their angle.
I
You
heard
know,
that too. Yeah, he sounded pretty confident. Yeah, I'm curious then because that's the thing. Every time, I think if you were just to talk to like an average person and be like, "Hey, what do you know about this case?" They'd be like, "Oh, his DNA was found at the scene."
but I
Right?
mean that's I know it, that it's a minuscule amount. I don't think it's a part. But like when you hear that prosecution say it's not even a big deal, we don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what he said. He said if it gets thrown out, it's not what we're planning to use. He said it in
It's
court, actually.
yep. Yeah, not our plan. That's not our angle.
Yeah, that shocked me. That was kind of a bombshell from their end.
And I think that's why the judges doesn't really care either.
Maybe. Get to Ducking Point says, I will always go back to wanting to know. Um, he didn't have to go upstairs comment by Steve G. Yeah, big time. What was that? Like, that was so, and that was right in the beginning, too. So that was before things were really tainted and they had like an angle. Yeah, I'm so curious about that. I've always wanted to know what he meant by that. Maybe one day he'll explain that or
Like,
it'll come to light.
is that at a target?
But how could he have known that in the beginning?
Because our mother's a drug addict.
Well, I mean,
Maybe.
he would have had to have known the motive, and for to know the motive, you'd have to know who the killer was.
I'm just guessing.
No, I know it's a fair guess. I mean, there's a lot of people that think there's a drug related aspect to this crime. I mean, so to recap, I think I think the big bombshells to come out of this 2-day event is number one, we still might get a Frank's hearing, right? I mean, it's still on the table.
Yep.
Um, it it could go either way, right?
Yeah.
Um, we learned about Dylan's various statements about the girls running up and down the stairs, her not being able to recall anything because she was drunk and she doesn't know if she was dreaming. We learned about the two items of blood that were not processed and are not BK's and are not Ethan's. What else did we learn?
Uh, what else? Oh, the time thing with the 7 minutes.
Yeah, the timing of the crime could be, according to Anne, they have used different timing to make it match up with the timing of the white sedan. Also, we've learned from the prosecution's end that they have pretty much said that even if the items of DNA do get thrown out, that's not what they're planning to use, which to me is a bombshell because that means that there's something else.
Yeah, definitely. Then could have a smoking gun.
Yeah. We have learned, I mean, they put a lot out there about the forensic, like the Apple, like the GPS and all that kind of stuff. But again, I don't put a lot of weight into that until we have like both sides of the story and it's actually like being gone over by a professional because even like the lawyers, they're not professionals looking at it. Like they're not forensics.
Yeah, that camera from across the street is gonna be a big deal if they got it.
Yeah. The Murphy story, do you put any weight into that story? What do you think?
Nah, from like what you know with your dog, I think the door had to be shut.
Big
And
time.
like, yeah, like I mean, dogs are nosy. That's what they do. They wander, they smell, they lick, they.
Becky's asking, would 2 minutes be any real effect on the case?
What was the question?
Would 2 minutes really like affect it either way? Like the 2:42 versus the 9 minutes?
Definitely. They said the crime was done in like 7 minutes, so definitely.
I mean it. it's it's reasonable doubt, I think, is what they're trying to do, because they're the defense. So the defense really just has to poke holes in the prosecution's story. So if they can pull 2 minutes here, a story about the dog there, a little bit of doubt about Dylan's story here, they're just creating an environment of reasonable doubt.
Extra blood on the banister.
Right. Like DNA that's not been processed, you know, kind of whipping the, like, maybe an expert would know that those things weren't, major items, but to untrained people like us, we think they're bombshells. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
And it's reasonable doubt.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's why, like, with this case, for example, like, I'm so on the fence because, I get swayed one way and then I get swayed another way, because it's just a huge puzzle and we're getting like maybe like 10 pieces of the puzzle.
Do we know if this is a 12-man jury or six?
12.
12.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see a friggin' total hung jury.
Well, it's a confusing case. They're going to have to tie it together in a way that's a slam dunk for this man to be, found guilty of a quadruple homicide and be sentenced to death by firing squad. I mean, it has to be a slam dunk. Like, and that's where I'm coming from. Like, as much as I want to, like, back LE and be like, I really want closure for the victims and the families. At the same time, like, you have to realize, like, this is a huge case in order to find someone guilty on all counts and a quadruple murder. There has to be no doubt, absolutely no doubt.
Yep. This is,
Ducky's asking, has the state ever confirmed the Van shoe imprint matched BK? In a party house full of college students, how do you with one sneaker? Yeah, yeah. I mean, they never, that actually did get brought up by a creator today that I was listening to, and they noted that the prosecution didn't mention, oh, well, it's not a size 13, because he's a size 13. My husband's a size 13. It's a very abnormal size. Like, with shoes, they usually only bring in like one size 13s when they're ordering like Jordans or something like that. Like, there's not a lot of size 13s out there. Um, at least in my where I live, they're not very popular.
yeah, he's a big
Um,
guy.
yeah. So for a size 13, that would be like a 1 in like a 200 chance. Like, there's not a lot of them out there.
And wasn't it a Van shoe?
Yeah, there's a lot of Vans shoes, but the size is the thing that would be so abnormal. If it is a size 13, that would be a major red flag in his direction.
I don't think a runner would wear a Van shoe either.
No, if you were going to commit a murder, you wouldn't use a van. I mean, maybe you would if you're
Exactly.
crazy, but like,
I'm
if
just
you
saying,
were
like,
planning it out,
if you had a run, you wouldn't have a van on, right? That's my thought.
yeah, I mean, it definitely is a younger person kind of sneaker. But if you're going to commit a crime, you would have something more substantial. I think if you're a planner and you're like the type of person that's like buying Dickies clothes, you'd wear like those like lace up like combat boots. I don't know,
They might even
just
have a booty on.
speculating. Yeah, or that. Yeah, or that for sure. To me, it's the size. Like, if they can prove that there's a size 13 right outside of Dylan's door and it's in blood and it's a size 13, ooh, that would be tricky for me, because because they're so abnormal, and I know that because that's my husband's size foot. But also, the problem with that, Ducky, is that they had people coming and going from that house, including friends, right?
Yeah.
Um, Random people. They called over the Hunter Johnsons.
He's a
Like,
big
they
guy. He
called.
could have a size 13.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, if they can prove the size of the shoe, it would need to be provable. Again, we'll need an expert for that.
Ethan was big too. He could be a size 13.
Yeah, for sure. I'm telling you, there's not a lot of size 13s out there though. Like for my husband, he belongs to all these like online shoe groups, like where they get like dead stock of like Jordans and stuff. And it's like the reason why there's groups for those, they call it big kicks, like the big kicks group. And the reason why they even have a group is because it's like hard to find those sizes.
Yeah, they are. I used to work at a sneaker store. You only get like one of those in every
Mm-hmm.
shipment.
There's like a million size nines, like a million size tens, and like one size 13.
And if you ever go to the clearance rack, you always find the big sizes are usually on it because there's not many people that buy them.
Yeah, makes sense. Ducky says, sounded like they had a whole university going in that house. Well, they definitely called this. They called their friends before they called the police, right?
Yeah,
So
they could have.
that's kind of what we got. I mean, that's the wrap up. More to come though, because we could still get the Franks hearing.
Yeah, within three
How has
weeks.
this left you feeling more inclined to say that you are leaning one way or another, like leaning towards the guilty or innocent, or are you more confused than ever?
Uh, I have my own theory from the beginning, which don't incriminate BK. But also, if you're in jail for 2 years, uh, I think they got something on you. I mean, maybe like, and then I
Hmm.
could put him into my theory, like he was paid by the people because he owed them money for drugs or something. Like I have a whole drug theory, and he could owe money, and they paid him to be there or do something, drive the car or something like that. But I could tie him into it being involved, but masterminding it, no.
Oh yeah, Ducky, they were definitely a party house. They had parties like every night. They had parties all the time. So the only thing that would say it was part of the crime would be is if the shoe print was actually in blood, which I think that was supposed to be the whole idea was it was a bloody shoe print.
You know, I think they used to sell like Molly and stuff,
Is that a rumor or is that
and
confirmed?
I thought Xana was like a middle drug dealer, like a middleman. I thought I remember reading that.
Yeah, I think that's like a rumor I've heard too. I don't know if we can confidently say that we know that, but I've heard that for sure. Um, I mean, we've heard so much in this case. It's crazy. Um, yeah, I mean, as far as how this has left me feeling, I feel like what I can say is that if these are all the details I had and I didn't have like a case in front of me and I just had all these details, I understand why there's so many people thinking that he's innocent because there's so much reasonable doubt. Even the fact that we're having these conversations just goes to prove that there's so much reasonable doubt. Like, it just goes to show that, we're still combing through all the items that don't make sense, all the items that do make sense. Anne is doing her job by throwing everything against the wall and hoping something sticks. I understand why people I don't personally like listening to her. I don't find her compelling, but I understand like the job she's doing by throwing so much out there is confusing people and making the prosecution look like they fumbled a lot of things because we haven't heard the prosecution side of anything yet. So we have to suspend our thoughts until I mean, I'm going to suspend my thoughts until I see the prosecution's case. And
Yeah, I
Cat
know.
K says, I don't know what to think. It's so strange that has no connection to any of the victims. Yeah, big time.
Yeah, I just don't see him like why these people. I need to know that. I mean, I can see why someone else would kill these people, but not him.
Hmm. Right. I mean, unless it's like one of those perfect crime things, like one of those thrill kills, like, you know, I don't know. I mean, I'd love to hear from somebody that thinks that they understand, his motive. Because there are a lot of people who have theorized about his motive and like sort of the crazed killer and the fact that he was so interested in crime and that he wanted to commit the perfect crime, et cetera, et cetera. But even then, like, he picked a very complicated home with a male in it. Like, like the funny thing with the male thing is like even BTK, when men would be at home, sometimes he would abort mission and not do it, right? But
Yeah.
he picked six. Well, like how many girls was it? So there's five girls and one male, and then he's just in there with a knife. Like it's wild to me. It's a wild scene.
And why do you wait till he's 29 years old if that was his plan? Like, that's a long time if that's what you're thinking of doing.
Um, get get to Ducking Point has no confidence in the handling of the evidence collection and investigation, which high possibility of mistrial. Yeah, big time. Like, um, I remember the early shots of that we used to get of the house. I don't know if you guys remember this, but like when that's all we had and they were still processing the scene, you could see some of the investigators in there without PPE and just wandering in and wandering out without doing like the 5 steps of PPE that you have to do anytime that you donning and doffing is what it's called in healthcare. I don't know if they would call it the same thing in crime scene investigation, but it didn't look very professional to me.
Not at all. And the kids running around before they got there.
Right.
I bet
And
you
like I
some kids snap.
understand. Go ahead.
I bet you some kids snap some photos.
Oh, can you imagine? Yeah. I mean, the time of the 911 call has always bothered me so much, and just hearing that Dylan was so active and like seeing people running up and down the stairs now, like it's mind-boggling to me. I don't understand it, but I'm also not somebody that has been a witness to a homicide like that. I would like to think I would dial 911 right away.
Unless you had a house full of drugs you had to get rid of.
Hmm.
That's just me. That's the way I think.
Yeah, I mean, drugs has always been a big factor in this case. I mean, especially surrounding the parents. And I think the girls, I think they themselves, just from my perception, they looked like they were students working hard to like be good students. But I understand that it's like a party scene.
College girls doing recreational drugs isn't uncommon now.
Oh, yeah, big time. I mean, I think that was like the norm. And they definitely looked drunk on grub, the grub truck video.
Oh yeah, Maddie
I
did
drove up
anyway.
and called 911 immediately. Yeah, get to Ducking Point. I just can't picture being that concerned that I'm sticking my head out and like seeing all these activities and not worried for my own life to call 911. Like, you'd think she would be concerned for herself and like, oh my God, like I'm gonna die.
I think Kaylee had the all more together than any of them, and she's there hitting a vape at the grub truck. So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. Maddie looks sloshed
yeah,
at the grub truck. Cat two was the angel in college. Yeah, weren't we all total angels? Well, I mean, I think we just continue to report on it and keep an open mind, and we'll just give the details as they come out. We learn things, but I feel like the more we know about this case, the more confusing it becomes.
that's why we don't dwell on it.
Right. Like we dwelled on it for like a good like year. and then we just had to put it down. It's kind of like having a puzzle and you know for a fact you don't have all the pieces. You want to figure it out, but you're just like, look, we don't have the pieces, and until we have the pieces, this puzzle is not over. And so you just can't do it. You just gotta you can put out your theories, you can put out your feelings, your thoughts, but as far as saying that you're confidently leaning in one direction, all it takes is like one other piece of evidence to lean you in the other direction, in this case, for me at least, because my mind's so open.
Yeah, definitely.
When is
And
the
there's so
next
much.
court hearing? Do we know when the next court hearing is?
I think. I mean, he's got to make a decision on what went on here, right? After Frank's hearing.
Right. So he's going to do a ruling. He's going to rule
Well,
on all this.
he asked Anne when she was free in the next 3 weeks. So I mean, so I would think it within 3 weeks.
Yeah. August 1st is the actual trial. Is that correct?
August 11th, I believe.
August
But July
11th? Okay.
30, July 31st is jury pick.
Isn't that crazy? I can't believe it's coming out so soon.
Well, I think they're going to be knocking a lot of people out. It might take 2 weeks to do it.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Well, we know Sophie can't be can't be in it, unfortunately. I appreciate our daily coverage on the case. Um, yeah, just beat it to death without. Yeah, we can't beat it to death. It gets really old when like there's some channels that this is all that they'll cover, and I totally understand that some people are engrossed in it and this is all they want to talk about. But I think at some point it becomes really disrespectful to the families and the victims and like the people who are this is their life to just cover it and like speculate on people who have been cleared and like people who are family members. This stuff's going to be out there forever, and it's just it's a terrible story. It's like one of the worst crimes I've ever heard of.
Me too.
Yeah, thanks, Kat K. She says I agree.
They're all beautiful souls. I mean, young, full of life, and that's why I can't put
And
my
we've got a
hands
lot
on
of
it.
Karen Reed coming up. We've got a lot of Karen Reed coming up too, right?
Yeah, we could actually do a show on what we learned the other day.
Yeah, we've got Karen Reed stuff that we have to cover because there was like some new footage with Higgins on the phone. I've got it in my community for you guys. It's like a huge tweet by Turtle Boy, and it's like brand new evidence. There's a motion to dismiss with Karen Reed. So we do have some things where we've got some real evidence and some real stuff to talk about. This case is just such a wild, wild case, the Idaho 4 case, and like we'll not solve it tonight or tomorrow night or this week, but we'll just keep on like putting the new stuff out there. But yeah, we've got Karen Reed coming up. We also have um, ASAP Rocky just started today. There's opening statements.
Oh yeah, I seen that.
hmm We've got Diddy news. We've got Jay Z news. We've got a lot going on, and we'll just have to wait with Idaho.
I mean, California is still burning.
California's still burning. That's so sad. Oh my gosh. And
Yeah,
Sophie's gonna be there in Idaho. She's gonna give us like boots on the ground coverage, which is gonna be amazing. She's gonna try to be in court. She's gonna try and get us footage that you guys can't see anywhere else other than here, which
I'm
is gonna
going to
be super
jury
cool.
duty.
Yeah, you're going to jury duty.
Yeah, February
Watch out, dude.
10th. Grand jury.
That's wild. Are you looking forward
Yeah,
to it?
I am. I hope they pick me.
My
But I
husband
think
got jury duty, and he like apparently it was a big case, and he just was like, nope, not into it. It was all women. He said all the women wanted to be in it.
but like, I gotta disclose what I do.
No,
Like, like, I think I'm better on the jury than other people. So I understand it.
like what you do as far as like having this channel.
Yeah. Like, just because I'm not really biased. You give me a case, I'm gonna listen for facts, and I'm gonna go on the facts. I'm not gonna accuse somebody because I don't like the color of their hair or their race or anything.
I think you'd be awesome. I'd want you on my jury.
I hope they pick me.
I hope they pick you too. Do you know what kind of a case it is?
No, I know nothing. I got to call up on the 9th, and then they tell me if I need to come in.
Wow. Imagine it's a murder case.
Oh, I hope so. Could be
You should tell
anything in
us
New
all about
York.
it. Yeah. White collar crime, bunch of people selling crypto.
Yeah, I hope it ain't a mobster case.
That'd be wild. I hope it is.
Yeah.
That'd be super cool.
I gotta get escorted around.
Ooh, Get to Talking Point says I want Epstein files. Yeah, me too. And drones, me too.
They came
Uh,
out. Epstein files supposedly came out.
GFK. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, we gotta cover all that stuff. I mean, we've
Yeah,
kind of been.
JFK were all over it. We're going to do it.
Yeah, JFK for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. When does that come out? Do we know?
It should be out soon, like within the next week.
Oh my
Oh, you know who I
gosh.
watched yesterday, which had a great video? I think it was veteran biker.
Yeah.
Or who's the other guy? The one who said why the deep state's gonna go after Trump. I watched that video.
Nino Rodriguez.
Maybe it was him. That was the other guy. I think it was veteran biker, but it was really
Okay.
good, and it's all about drones.
Uh
Um,
huh.
and what else was it? It was a lot about drones, a lot about the deep state. And all about the files coming out. That's why they're
Uh
going to
huh.
go after Trump because those files being released, Trump ordered, and the deep state don't want them out.
Well, yeah. I mean, but if they get rid of Trump, would the files still come out?
Oh yeah, the files are coming out now, no matter what. They have to kill Trump like tomorrow.
Yeah, veteran biker's good. Eric's grand
Hey,
jury
Mr.
trial sounds
Mandela.
interesting. Murder. Hey, Mr. Mandela. Yeah, you never know. It could be a murder, as Eric would say.
Murder.
Murder.
Grinder.
Well, I mean, I want to see the JFK stuff for sure. I worry a little bit that it's gonna hurt people for it to come out. Like, I mean, not hurt people, but divide people. Like, I always just worry about like, I mean, but obviously, like, my curiosity, like, kind of beats that feeling.
You know why it's
But you
coming
know,
out?
why?
RFK wants it to come out.
Oh, good. Okay. Well,
It's coming out because he wants it to come out. He wants to know
that's
shit.
good.
It's his
Area
family.
51. Is Area 51 stuff coming out? Ducky
No,
said,
Martin Luther King, RFK, and JFK. Oh, and
oh,
I think
Martin. So would that all just be like CIA hits? Like, is that basically what it's gonna be?
we're gonna
You
find
guys,
out.
because I feel like it's probably not regular people. If it was a regular person, we'd already know who did it. They're not gonna be like, well, Joe Smith did it. Boom.
It's definitely
We just
CIA.
never got him. It's like it's obviously the government. Like otherwise they wouldn't have to release it. It would just be like out there. Am I right?
Yeah, it's probably people that are dead that did it.
Yeah. I mean, the Martin Luther King thing is like kind of really sad though, right? Like I mean that guy was I mean,
If
so
that
is JFK obviously, but
if that's corruption, that could stir up shit.
I was gonna say, you guys don't really need more division when it comes to, racial stuff,
No,
right?
yep,
That
that
could
could be a problem.
like that could be a problem. I mean, I think it already is a problem. People know in their heart, like I'm Canadian and I'm like not even from that generation, and like in my heart, like I kind of know it's like a government thing, but at the same time, like to have it confirmed is a little bit different.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. Get to Ducking Point says no, just my brief wish list. Okay. Trump CIA director and a part of my deep state. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, hey, if they think it's in the best interest of everybody to know, and it kind of clears the conscience of the United States to put it out there, and they want to just clear up the you know the speculation and the secrecy around these things, then maybe it is for the best. You know,
Trump wants to exploit the deep state.
he's done with them.
They tried to kill him.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I'd be pissed at them too.
I'm going to look into that when we're done here.
Okay. Well, hey, we could have some cool shows coming up. We definitely missed Sophie tonight. It wasn't the same with her, but I had a fun time with you, Eric.
Yes, it was great. Good show. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We
Thank you
appreciate
for
you.
everybody who joined us. Yeah, you guys are awesome in the chat. We are still a tiny channel, but we are mighty.
Yes, we are.
And I'll throw things in my community page as I find them. I do have some Karen Reed stuff that I think is super cool and interesting with Higgins that I definitely want to cover. We might have Dolphin come up and talk with us, and we will have Sophie back if we have to tie her to a chair and force her to talk.
And I'm trying to work my community page, so.
Yeah, you have a TikTok now and you have Instagram. How do we find you on Instagram?
Instagram, erock, EROCKK 9375.
He's got some funny videos, you guys. You gotta check them out.
Mr. Pink 93 on TikTok.
And I hit 5K on TikTok.
Yeah, congratulations to Ashley.
Mom, a little past
5K.
that. 5K.
It's probably
All right,
6K
guys,
now.
Yeah,
Bye.
right.
Thank you, everybody. We love you.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks for joining us tonight. Have a good one. Good night.